Let's pick up where we left off last week, in terms of the different negotiation mindsets between the East and West. Browsing through the internet, I am amazed by the lack of analysis on various negotiation styles around the world, in particular the markedly different negotiation styles between Eastern and Western negotiators. As a negotiation expert myself, who has started 2 successful businesses with a strong psychology and HR background, I decided to start this video and channel to share my knowledge, having negotiated with umpteen Eastern and Western people alike. To understand more about Eastern negotiator mindsets, we must look at Sun Tzu, the author of The Art of War, an incredibly written ancient Chinese book full of war tactics. I would recommend anybody to read at least a chapter from this book to learn about how ancient war tactics can be applied to modern-day negotiation settings. Based on my experience in business dealings, although most Easterners can speak English, communication barriers with the West are still as high as before. That is because Easterners think differently and as a result negotiate differently. Most of modern-day negotiation literature and academic studies come from the West, with Harvard-inspired MBA and EMBA programs all trying to decipher the best negotiation techniques and tactics. The problem is, however, as I mentioned, 99% of these courses are teaching negotiation from a Western perspective, and that is a big problem. Before I dive deeper into negotiation differences between the East and the West in my upcoming videos, I'd like to focus on one of the many key ideas put forward by Sun Tzu. Embrace your own weaknesses and don't be afraid to show them. That seems a bit counterintuitive, does it not? It actually makes a lot of sense. Sun Tzu says, don't be afraid to show your weaknesses early, so that you can wear off your weaknesses gradually and you can focus fully on your strengths later in the battle. Basically, Sun Tzu suggests that getting your weaknesses out of the way quick is better than waiting them till last. If your weakness is about to be noticed by your opponent, why not let your opponent know ASAP? There are several benefits when employing this tactic in a negotiation. Firstly, by showing your weaknesses, you give your opponent an illusionary sense of control. As humans, we strive to be in control of everything, whether consciously or unconsciously. We hate it when we don't have control. In negotiation settings, I often find that people hate to negotiate when they have no control. The worst thing that can happen when you're looking to land a big deal with a big company is to not even be given a chance to negotiate properly. By showing a calculated weakness on the onset, your opponent will feel like he's in control and as a result is more likely to feel at ease when negotiating with you in the middle and latter stages of a negotiation. When your opponent feels at ease, that is when he is at his peril. He may loosen up and not be as demanding. This gives you more of an opportunity to secure concessions from your opponent or concede less than you originally expect to from the onset. A second benefit is that you give yourself more of a chance to take the upper hand in the closing stages of the negotiation. That is because by nature and by definition, when your weaknesses have been discussed, only your strengths are yet to be discussed. In sports, it is often said that closing a match well is much more important than the start. Similarly, ending a negotiation well is more important than how well you start. You don't want to keep making concessions in the end of a negotiation, especially in situations where there's a time limit on when you have to make a decision to strike a deal or not. As you can see from this example, the Chinese, as well as a lot of other Asian countries like Japan and Korea, are very tactically minded. This can be down to the rich Eastern history of game inventions associated with tactics, such as the chess game of Go, where players have to think of ways to take as much area in the board as possible by employing various tactics like cornering the opponent's chess pieces. With such a tactical mindset, you can expect that most Eastern negotiators are well guarded and will think ahead 8 to 10 steps in a negotiation. Obviously, you don't have to play such a tactical negotiation game if you don't wish, since ultimately the most important thing is to raise reasonable demands and getting them. However, it is good to always keep in mind that your opponent may be tactically minded so that you can identify and avoid certain traps and psychological tricks they may use. To sum up, your weaknesses are not the be-all and end-all. They can often be turned into something that benefits you in negotiations through a bit of creativity, skill and tactics. Negotiations are not always as straightforward as you first think, and the worst sin one can commit is to only evaluate everything based on its appearance. You mustn't judge a book by its cover and assume that your negotiation opponents think like you do. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel, and see you in our next video.